Hi, it's Bill Horvat from the Vancouver Canucks.
Hey guys, it's Brittany Palmer, the UFC Octagon Girl.
Hey, this is Trevor Hurst of Econoline Crush.
Hi, it's Bob Lenarduzzi of the Vancouver Whitecaps.
Hi, this is Theodis Crane from AMC's The Walking Dead and WGN's Underground.
Hi, this is George Thorogood.
Hi, I'm Jackie Childs, social influencer.
Hi, I'm William B. Davis, the cigarette-smoking man from the X-Files.
Hey, this is Vinnie Paul from Hell Yeah! And you're listening to the Toddcast right there in Vancouver.
It's funny how life works, isn't it? When I was still doing the afternoon show at CFox, 99.3 The Fox here in Vancouver, I was there between 99 and 2014, there was a local podcaster named Steve Stebbing who invited me to be a guest of his podcast, kind of focused on comic books and movies. And if you know me at all, that's right down my alley. Been a huge comic book fan since elementary school. I'd say probably close to 35 years. Anyway, turns out Steve's a good dude. We became friends. And when I was shown the corporate door in the summer of 2014, so many of my buddies questioned whether I needed to go back to terrestrial radio, or could I start a podcast, get some sponsors, and do my own thing. Well, Steve was one of those guys, and seeing what he was doing at the time was inspiring. Maybe I could do my own thing. Long story short, we're 7.5 years into doing this, still going strong. So Steve is a guest this week, long overdue. It is a weak segue, but I'm going to use it anyway. Speaking of inspiring people, BC Lions quarterback Michael Riley took some time with us just a few days back. He is a guest as well, and as a longtime fan of the club, watch the YouTube video to see me controlling my inner geek. You will hear from Michael within the next 15 minutes. First, our first guest of three, this week's musical guest, Buck Cherry singer Josh Todd. That is brought to you by Pineapple Sound, a recording and mixing studio in Langley since 2013. They also welcome podcasts, voiceover actors, of course bands, and a bunch more. Check them out through pineapplesound.com. I believe that they're going to be doing a contest with us to record a single for a local band. I don't want to talk out of turn, but I do believe that's the case. Follow them on social media to keep up with what they're doing. As you know, Buck Cherry is a rowdy rock band. They've been around since 95. They formed in Anaheim, California. They've had some huge radio hits over the years. Lit Up, Crazy Bitch, Sorry, which is maybe their biggest. They're 9 albums in now. Hellbound was released this year on June 25, and they're on tour. They're hitting Vancouver next month, October 5th. Now, originally this was supposed to be happening at the Imperial, but poking around prior to recording this week's podcast, it looks as though that show has been moved to the Rickshaw. Regardless, going to be a killer show. Everyone is ready for a big night out. Buck Cherry absolutely slays live. And we talked to their singer Josh for just over 30 minutes. You can hear that now. You can see it as well. iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud, and our YouTube accounts. They're all at Toddcast Podcast. Here he talks about using some of his pandemic downtime to become a certified phlebotomist. Like what?
Oh, yeah, that was a lot of fun. I love learning new things, and don't ask me why I got really interested in that. I mean, when I get my blood taken every year, I go to a blood bank because it's just closer to my house, and I just rather do that than have to fast in the morning and go all the way to my doctor's, because my doctor's a little farther away. So I go to this blood bank called Quest Diagnostics, and I was there one time, and they have the best phlebotomists because they're taking blood literally all day long. So
right.
It doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt at all, So
no.
This big, tall, tattooed guy came in, and I'm like, oh my God. And he just wrapped me up and took my blood, and I literally didn't even feel it. And I was like, wow, man, you're like the best, phlebotomist I've ever had. I go, how'd you get into this? And I just started talking to him and asking him about his process. And, I was really interested in the whole thing. And so cut to quarantine. I'm like, I gotta get out of this house. I gotta work. I want to serve my community. How can I do that? And so I searched it up. I found a little phlebotomy school. I went to school for 2 weeks. Did a lot of, like after your first day of phlebotomy school, you're already sticking people and they're sticking you. And, and none of us are doing it very well at the beginning. So it's like, you're coming home with 6-7 sticks in your arms. And it starts becoming, you start looking like a heroin addict when you get home, it was funny, but I mean, and then we started getting really good because, we wanted to, be successful every time. I think I only like missed a vein like 1 or 2 times that whole time. And you had to do like, I don't know, like 50 venipunctures, to complete, to get certified. And then also I had to take a national exam and studied really hard for that and took that and passed it. And then then you have to do an externship, and I did that, which is 40 hours at a clinic, and I went to this clinic and I had on scrubs, but I didn't have like I didn't have long sleeves underneath it. And they looked at me and they said, "Oh, you got to, you have to cover up your tattoos. You have to leave." And I was like, "Okay." And so I came back and I had, like long sleeves. I didn't think they would have a problem with it because I've seen many people in scrubs with tattoos, but so I came back and then I had to like take people's blood in a clinical setting, which was I was nervous. I was nervous because I'd only done my students and I went in there and I handled it, and then I started getting good at it, and then I worked for 4 months at a COVID clinic down in downtown Los Angeles. And this was after we'd already recorded the whole Hellbound record.
Yep.
So it was done. And then I started working at this COVID clinic, basically to serve my community, pass the time, and to, do more phlebotomy. I really enjoyed it.
It's pretty cool, right? We got into the shows that Josh was binge watching at the time. We're doing a 12-guest binge watch podcast next week, by the way. What else? We talked to Josh about gambling, the albums that he would need on a deserted island, the music in his house as a kid growing up. And when I asked online if you wanted to ask Buck Cherry singer a question, Cam asked whether he was the original singer of Velvet Revolver and whatever happened with Slash, Duff McKagan, and Matt Sorum jamming with him.
Back in the day, in between Time Bomb and 15, 3 of the band members had quit. It was just Keith and I holding things together. And at one point, Duff, Slash, and Matt reached out to us. They were doing some tribute, or what was it?
Wasn't it like a Randy Castillo tribute?
Yeah,
Like
Randy Castillo thing to raise money, some charity event at the Key Club, and asked us if we wanted to jam and do some covers, and we'll do some Buck Cherry songs, some Guns N' Roses, Aerosmith, and they called it the Cherry Roses, right? And we went and did the show, and it was a lot of fun. And at that point in time, Keith and I had just been sitting there writing songs. We weren't in a band situation; we were just writing demos, and so it was fun for us to be in a band situation. And we were like joking to each other. We're like, "Man, this sounds like Buck Cherry with like really great musicians," and so we're like, that felt really good. There was kind of a buzz around LA after we did the show. It was.
I do remember, even up here, dude, on the west coast of Canada. Fuck, I remember when you guys did that, and like everybody was talking about it.
Yeah, so we were like, let's call them up and see if they want to like do something, maybe put a band together, and they were thinking the same thing. And we became like a band for a month. We were going to rehearsal. We were writing songs. We were talking to managers. We were like trying to get it together. We were talking about band names. And then all of a sudden Slash came in and abruptly said he didn't want to do it. And that was it. And then it wasn't only till after that those guys later did the Velvet Revolver thing. So I was way before that.
Would love to hear some of that music. Imagine Velvet Revolver with the singer of Buck Cherry as the frontman. Not that Scott Wayland didn't do a great job, but just saying. And Josh talked about the last year and a half with COVID. Obviously tough times for everyone, certainly for touring bands, and what it was like making an album and releasing it during a pandemic.
I don't know where it's going, but I think we're everybody's just learning how to live with it right now, and that's good. It's been challenging. I can't say that it hasn't. Last year was rough, and we just thank God we had this great record, Hellbound, to channel all of our energy into. It's definitely one of our best records, and had a lot of fun creating it, and that was our focus in 2020, and thank God for that, and to have it out on the street now is like so amazing,
No doubt. And like, what are the differences of recording during a pandemic? And like, is it tough to get that creative juices flowing, or like, what a fucking drag?
No, once we decide we're gonna, start that process, we just start tackling it, 6 days a week. Honestly, we didn't let up. Stevie and I just started writing and building a house. That's what making a record is. You just have a foundation and that's it. So we wrote 28 songs for a 10-song record, to get it down to 10 songs, and it's a masterpiece. I really, for us, I really, it's fun to listen to from beginning to end, and that was a goal.
Musical guests of the Toddcast podcast are powered by Pineapple Sound, providing recording and mixing services for a wide range of artists and genres since 2013. Check them out at pineapplesound.com.
Believe it. She worked the till at the corner store, and she can't wait to leave it. Where the radio comes on, she hears her song. She she's gonna feel it, gonna play them all night long. We won't last forever. We won't lose our soul. Rock and roll can't be forgotten. Rock and roll is rock and roll. Poet died just the other day, and some said we'll never feel the same. And she just can't stop thinking, will anybody ever even know my name? So she joined a band and she bought a van. They drove straight to Cleveland, where the heart of rock and roll is still beating. We won't last forever. We won't lose our soul. Rock and roll can't be forgotten. Rock and roll is rock and roll. Rock and roll.
is Bend Sinister, B-E-N-D, Bend Sinister. Awesome song for those guys called Rock and Roll. And did you notice on their Facebook page, they had sent out a post saying that their upcoming mini tour, I think they'd planned on hitting like 7 or 8 cities in BC and Alberta, that has been canceled. However, their Vancouver date remains. Brass Camel, Bend Sinister, Bad Magic. It's this Saturday, September 18th at the Rickshaw Theater. That is going to be a great show. Coming up in just a few minutes in Listen to This, the Pretty Reckless singer Taylor Momsen talking about recording a song with Soundgarden's Kim Thale and Matt Cameron. That is powered by Tedco RV Supplies in Langley, RV Service and Repair. ICBC accredited. Find them online on Facebook. Search out Tedco RV Supplies. First, the second of 3 Toddcast guests this week is our sporting guest, BC Lions quarterback Michael Riley. That is brought to you by Joyce Heating Services, family owned and operated, heating the Lower Mainland since 1960. Now, growing up in Surrey as a little kid, elementary school at Green Timbers, Simon Cunningham, Vancouver's major sports teams just kind of become ingrained in your blood. It's the Whitecaps, it's the Canucks, it's the Lions. So we always do our best to get a player from each team at least once a year. It's kind of trickier with the Canucks as they have a no podcast policy in place the last few years. That might change with a new club media manager, though. Anyway, the Lions have supported this podcast since we launched in 2015, and I've been a fan for literally as long as I can remember, and grabbing quarterback Michael Riley is pretty cool. The Lions play the Alouettes this Saturday, the 18th. Don't forget, that's a 4 o'clock start. We talked to Michael for just over 28 minutes. Again, you can hear it, you can see it at our iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud, and YouTube accounts. Toddcast podcast. Listen to him talk about his first football memory.
I know exactly what it is. So I've been playing football since I was like 6 years old. My dad coached. I have an older brother who was playing before me, right? So I was kind of allowed to play a little bit younger than most kids because, who's going to sign the permission slip? Well, the dad's the coach. He doesn't care. Right. He'll take the responsibility if I get hurt. But I was the starting quarterback of the C team. So we had this thing called Grid Kids that we played, and it was like A, B, and C team. A was the oldest, B was the middle, C was the youngest. And that was all prior to like middle school. So I was the starting quarterback of the C team. But the starting quarterback on the A team, so 2 age groups above me, had gotten hurt. And so my dad was like, well, what the hell? I guess you'll just play for both teams. And so C team always played first, and then the A team played right afterwards. And so I remember like playing the game for the C team and then running over the sideline. My mom would have like a hot dog from the concession stand, and I would crush that and like maybe a bottle of water. And then I'd run back onto the field and start playing for the A team. So, it was like, it's just what it was. It was kind of a normal thing for us, was just, if you can walk, you can play. And so that's kind of what we did.
I like that. I like finding out about the first things that they remember for what they're known for. We also got into talking about TV shows that Michael was currently binge watching. Fake crowd noise at the major sporting events during COVID. How he saw Pearl Jam at the Gorge in George. And Michael talked about the music that was playing in his house as a kid growing up.
It was like country music. Every time that we'd be in the van, we had this big van that my mom would be driving around, taking us to all the different errands that she had to run. It'd always be like, Garth Brooks and George Strait and stuff like that playing. Like, honestly, now if you turn on like old school, and I say old school, like 90s country on the radio, I could probably sing every single song. Not well, of course, but I at least know the lyrics to just about every single song. From that generation. My dad always listened to, Willie and the Boys, the Four Horsemen, stuff like that. And so that's what we would go on. Like, me and my dad would go on a 2-hour drive to Bluewood to go skiing, every weekend in the wintertime. And we were always listening to like Waylon Jennings, like all the time. And so, again, I can still probably repeat just about every one of those lyrics. So that's what we listen to.
Yeah, dude, that kind of becomes like almost it's comfort music at that point.
Yeah, for sure. It's not what I listen to now, but I do have that music downloaded on my phone. And I never really searched for it, but every once in a while I'll put it on shuffle, and one of those songs will pop up, and you don't skip past it. You just kind of listen to it because it's just so good from your childhood, right?
And we asked Michael if he had a near-death story. It's a question that we love asking our guests because most of them have one.
Yeah. Yes, I have. It was, so when I was in high school, I was out at a friend's house who lived not that far. And so I grew up in Washington, but I graduated from high school in Montana. We moved there midway through my junior year. So I was in Montana. I think it was my senior year of high school. And I was driving home from a buddy's place. It wasn't super late, but it was like late fall. And so it was already dark out, maybe like 7 or 8 o'clock. But it was this like massive windstorm. Like one of those ones where you see like these big trees completely swaying and everything like that. And there's lightning and thunder and all this kind of stuff. And it wasn't that long of a drive. It was like 10-minute drive to get back to my house. And I'm on 2 Mile Drive, which is like very close to where my parents' house is. And I'm within 30 seconds of being home. And as I'm driving down the road, a tree blows over into the middle of the road. I'm going, 40 miles an hour, maybe it was speed limit, whatever it was. But it's got a fork in the trunk, and it hit right as my car drove through it, and my car went through the fork in the tree. And so 1 second I'm driving, the next second I'm like on an incline sitting there. For some reason the airbag didn't go off, but because I think it just went right through the fork, but the trunk came through the windshield and was just inches from my face where I stopped. And so I had glass all over me. I had like leaves and stuff. I mean, I had no idea what the hell's going on here. I'm like sitting in my car. There's a tree in my car. And so, I took a minute to like compose myself, and I was able to open the door still. And I like shimmied out from the car and looked at it. And I was like, this is back. I'm in high school. We don't have cell phones yet.
Yeah.
I'm right. Like they existed, but not in the capacity they do now. So I just like grabbed my keys and I just jogged home. It was like, like a 2-minute jog. So I like run through the backyard, and the back slider's locked, and my parents are sitting in the dining room, like talking to each other. I'm like knocking on the door, and I got like tree branches. Like, I got some like cuts on my face. I'm like bleeding, and my mom is like, what the hell is going on?
Going on here?
So I tell them, and we get in their car and we drive out of the neighborhood and down the street. And when we pulled up to where it was, my mom, like, because she was like, I was trying to explain it to her. I don't think they really understood what I was saying. But when we got there and like she saw it, she just like broke down and started like crying. She was like amazed that I wasn't dead. It was the craziest experience that I've had, and it was super weird. But yeah, it was like a cool story the next day at school.
Of course, man, for the rest of your life.
High school, you don't really think much of it, but looking back on it, I'm like, wow, that was crazy.
Sporting guest visits of the Toddcast podcast are powered by Joyce Heating Services, a family-owned and operated heating business serving the Lower Mainland since 1960. Online at joyceheating.com.
I don't
Toddcast podcast is powered by Milano Coffee, bringing you the finest espresso and coffee concepts in the world. Online at milanocoffee.ca. And now, listen to this on the Toddcast podcast.
You'll know the Pretty Reckless's singer Taylor Momsen from acting. In The Grinch with Jim Carrey, she was little Cindy Lou Who. She played Jenny in Gossip Girl. But when we talked to Taylor, it was all about the music. Her band formed in New York City 2009, and since the release of their debut in 2010, it has been full on. They've topped the US and UK rock charts, huge world tours. Their latest album, their fourth, Death by Rock and Roll, came out in February of this year, 2021. And when Taylor was a guest, we talked about Marvel, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Pink Floyd came up. She talked about her first concert, seeing the White Stripes. She shared a near-death experience story involving a riptide when she was just a little kid. We got into the pandemic a little bit. We talked about the WWE, Seinfeld, and WandaVision. And Taylor talked about recording a song with Soundgarden's Kim Thale and Matt Cameron for the Pretty Reckless's latest album. Listen to this.
Well, we, it kind of stems from a, kind of a sad story, but, we were opening for Soundgarden on that last tour, which was incredible. I mean, it was the highest of highs. Like I couldn't believe that we were there, like opening for Soundgarden. Like it blew my mind. It was absolutely the most amazing experience. And then, and so I became friends with them on that tour, and, it obviously ended very tragically, which, with the passing of Chris that took everyone by surprise, but that really crushed me in a way that I still don't know how to put into words. And it kind of took me down this rabbit hole of, depression and substance abuse and everything that comes with loss. And, and because shortly after we lost Chris, we also we went through a lot of hits in the Pretty Reckless world. Shortly after the music world lost Chris, I found myself not in a good place to be public. Like I came to that conclusion fairly quickly of I can't get on stage every night and pretend that I'm okay when I'm kind of falling apart inside. And so I canceled touring and went home to kind of regroup and process. And as soon as I kind of started to get my feet back on the ground, I got a phone call that our producer Kato had died in a motorcycle accident. And that was just the nail in the coffin for me, where I just spiraled down very quickly into, this hole of darkness that I didn't really know how to get out of. And sorry, I'm kind of rambling now, but to make a very long story, there's no way to not talk about these things while speaking about the album, because it's such a part of it. And so to make a very long story short, it was music was the thing that I turned to that really kind of pulled me out of this funk. When I finally picked up a guitar again and started to write, I feel like this record's different in a lot of ways, in the sense that I didn't really have to try to write it. It just kind of poured out of me, whether I wanted it to or not. It was like all these emotions and all these things that I had been feeling a bit repressing for, months on end. As soon as I kind of, cracked that door open, it was like a dam exploding, and it just all overflowed. And that in itself was very cathartic. That was kind of the first step of me, healing and getting my life back on track, I guess. And so anyway, to get back to Matt and Kim, I wrote the song Only Love Can Save Me Now. And just, I love that song. And just due to the kind of overall vibe of it, I thought that, Matt and Kim's just incredible, masterful musicianship, they would add such a weight and a quality to it that would really take the song to the next level and really see it through to its full potential. So I sent them a demo of it and said, would you guys want to play on this? I think that this could be really awesome. And they listened and said, yeah. And the experience was fantastic. I mean, we actually recorded, it was one of the last songs we recorded for the record. We did it in Seattle at the legendary London Bridge Studios, which is, where Soundgarden made Louder Than Love, and Pearl Jam made 10, and Alice in Chains made Dirt, and yes. So many other records. So to be there, and I'm a firm believer that spaces are kind of like people. They hold memories and energy and, inside the walls. And so just walking in there and was incredible. You could feel it, you know, and then to be there with Matt and Kim and have Kim walk around and point to everything on the wall and have a story about it was just absolutely amazing. And then to get to the actual recording of it, to hear that song come to life for the first time in a real way, like the first time Matt hits his snare and the first note that Kim plays, it just exploded out of the speakers of pure and utter awesomeness that only they can deliver. And it just
literally
absolutely incredible.
Can you see this? My hair.
No, I know. I still get goosebumps. It was
standing up right now. Like freaking Soundgarden is helping you with a song. Like
it's absolutely insane. And like, I don't want to speak for them because that's not my place, but I love them. I love them so much. Like I there's not just as musicians, which is like, obviously I don't have to say that, but as people, like they're so incredibly kind. Like they're everything you want them to be and more. Like it's, you know, you always hear don't meet your idols because, you know, they can go south really quickly. And like there's so much, I don't have words. I love you guys, Matt, Kim, Ben. I love you guys. And it just, I'm so grateful that they were a part of this. And it was just this very full circle moment, like after all this hell, like to be there together, creating something new. I felt like it was this very beautiful moment, and really just shows kind of the healing power of music.
Listen to this on the Toddcast podcast is brought to you by Tedco RV Supplies in Langley, an ICBC approved repair shop. Find them online at tedcorvsuppliesinc.com.
just an absolute stomper. Dead Quiet, a Tone Deaf. Love that band. Love that song. You can see them live at the Rickshaw Theatre in Vancouver on November 5th. Another banger show. Dead Quiet, Brass, Heron, which you've heard a few times on this podcast, and Empress. Expect that one to be a rowdy night. Played you Collision Course and a new song for them called What's My Name. It's a new song for the podcast as well. A First Spin. Thanks for sending in, boys. They will be at the Rickshaw a month from now, Friday, October 15th. Our buddies in Sleep Circle, Jake Tuzell and the guys, are headlining the night. Redwoods, Stickman, Damsel, and Collision Course. Mo and the team at the Rickshaw just continue to soldier on, and good on them, because God knows we need venues to survive this pandemic. So many have already been closed down. It's absolutely crazy times. Speaking of live music, find local and live stream shows with the indie scene at toddhancock.ca. If you're playing one or you're going to check out something, if it's indie, let us know about it and we'll get it up at the website. Some free promo. We get roughly 3,000 visits a day. It's brought to you by Mystic Rhythms Rehearsal Studios, 40 years plus experience in the music industry. Find out more through mysticrhythms.ca. Okay, our final guest of episode 253 is podcaster and national movie critic Steve Stebbing. This week's entertainment guest, brought to you by Sacred Meds, the best craft cannabis and psilocybin dispensary in Canada. Find hash, CBD oil, bath bombs, teas, and more. Use the code TODCAST for 10% off your entire order. Check them out through sacredmeds.com. As mentioned off the hop, Steve Stebbing is a key reason why this podcast even exists. When I was still doing radio here in Vancouver, Steve had me over a few times to hang out, smoke weeds, shoot the shit about comics and movies and whatever else. He's a good dude. His wife Jen is super cool as well, laid back. She's part of the magic of that podcast as well. They're just a great couple. Anyway, you may remember a movie feature that we used to do on this podcast. I think we called it the Movie Minute. Anyway, we stopped doing it because we couldn't find a sponsor for it, to be honest. Well, we had one, and then we just lost it anyway, because it was good content. Steve's a savant when it comes to movies. He's well-spoken. He's not afraid to share his opinion. You can hear him as a national film critic for The Shift with Shane Hewitt across the Global News Radio Network. We talked with Steve for just over 40 minutes. I told him it would be maybe 15, 20 minutes kind of thing, but come on, once you start talking, it's kind of easy to get carried away. You can hear and see it at our iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud, and YouTube accounts. Search for Toddcast Podcast. Kind of makes sense to talk to Steve about his first movie memory.